Hello, everybody. Welcome back to These Aren't the Nerds You're Looking For. I'm Lorenzo Fawn, sitting here with...
Kevin Horde. How you doing, buddy?
Good, man. Good. Yeah. We're just speaking off air. I just worked the weekend, and we're rolling right into this, so...
I did something this weekend I have not done in a long time.
Oh, what'd you do?
I watched about 4 hours of broadcast television.
Ooh, what were you watching?
Golf.
Oh, very nice. Sure, it was nice and relaxing. You saw Tiger Woods win.
I did.
Very nice. I was able to keep up with some news.
I think I missed hole 16 and 17, but I saw...
everything else?
Probably from hole 3 through 15 and then hole number 18.
Very nice. Very nice. What event did happen? All I saw was he won the thing. What was it?
Don't put me on the spot, man. It was... I've heard it compared to as the World Series of Golf. So, they played in Atlanta. Is that correct? I believe.
I know next to nothing about golf.
But he did win. That was his 80th PGA win. It had been nice. I think they said it was 1,187 days since his last PGA win. So
yeah, he was in a little bit of a dry spell. I saw. It was 5 years or something like that.
Or just it was 2013.
Yeah. So yeah, good for him.
They played on the East Lake Golf Course. Pot was $9 million. So there you go.
I said, goddamn. Very good for him.
Very good for him.
Yeah, damn.
No, what was the name of the fucking thing?
Where's that money coming from? How are they getting that much money?
It's golf, man. I don't know.
It's from the country clubs? I don't know how golf economy works.
I don't think it's country clubs. I don't think
that's a lot of fucking money.
I think you pay money to a country club to play at the country club, not to give to the PGA.
No, but
I'm sure it's all advertising dollars and shit like that.
Maybe. I mean, I'm sure that's some of it, but maybe the country club hoards a lot of money to throw this event to draw people to their specific golf course. Does that make sense?
I don't think so, because so recently what was the US Open or whatever was here in St. Louis at Bellerive Country Club, and I know that the golf course itself spends its own money and lots of it to do, because even though it's a high-end country club, they still put X number of $1 million into the course, into the turf, building stands, all that shit. And the country club itself does that self-improvement so that when they host an event, it doesn't suck. And then PGA wants to come back. But I don't think that it is a...
But they're not the one putting up the pot then. It's PGA.
Yeah, it's the PGA.
Event coordinator or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
PGA is the one paying out the prize money. Not the
course, the venue, not the venue itself.
Right.
I guess. Yeah. Okay. That makes a lot more sense.
This was the FedEx Cup. Is that what Tiger just won? I think.
I have no clue. I did not know that was a thing.
Yeah.
But this isn't the one with the green jackets or anything.
That's the Masters.
The Masters, okay.
Yeah. So this is a PGA tour. It's weird because he won the event, but then another guy won the tour. So I don't know if this comprised of multiple. I don't know how it works. I'm a casual.
So
golf
there's
fan.
multiple events that lead into one big tour.
I guess so.
And winning different events consists of points on their own.
Yeah, because the guy that won the whole tour championship, I think is what it's called. Took third. But he took...
But still...
Yeah, it was weird because I remember them talking after hole 14 or something. It was old dude had a not so good shot, missed a putt, whatever. And so the projections had changed, and he was tied like 3 ways for third place. So he either needed to get to like a tie for second or like a solo for third to be able to, I guess, accumulate enough points to be the tour champ. I don't know. It's weird. I talk about.
So is it maybe like for Mario Kart fans, if each course in a Mario Kart championship run, you know how like you get certain points for whatever place you're placed in, but like each course in this case happens to consist of a full 18-hole round of golf against like however many golfers.
Well, yeah, it's even more than that because they play the same course 3 days in a row.
Jesus.
So it's 36 plus 18. What was that, 52? It's 52 holes of golf for... Or no, they play 4 times? They play Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday? That sounds right.
Damn, that's a lot of golfing.
I don't know too much about golf.
Yeah,
I've got some favorite golfers I like to play. I'm not very good.
Yeah. I've never played golf. I
took golf as a PE credit in college.
That was an option for you?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
We just hit the driving range every single day.
Damn.
And the final was to play like 18 holes of golf, and I think I skipped that and went and did something else.
All right.
That's all I got.
So that's been Golf Corner on These Aren't the Nerds You're Looking For.
How about that? I am sure most of that is full of inaccuracies. And
surely.
That's all right.
Please tweet Kevin at Not the Nerds.
At Not the
on
Nerds.
Twitter.
Hit me on Twitter. Let me know what I don't know about golf.
Yeah, please. Because I am curious. I just don't follow it,
Yeah. I like Tiger. He's had some personal transgressions, which are not the best. And
surely,
fair enough to anyone that can't get past that. But he is a hell of a golfer. And to see him come back after 5 years of not being able to fucking screw his head on straight and get shit done, it was nice.
How old is he now?
44.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
42.
Yeah. In his 40s somewhere. Yeah, that makes sense. So, yeah, good. Good for him. Before we get on to the Clone Wars episode we're about to speak of, there is some news we should pass along that came out today as of this recording, which is Monday, September 24th, just to put an exact date on it for people listening. Gary Kurtz has passed away. Just saw that news earlier today. And for those who may not be aware, Gary Kurtz was the producer behind the films American Graffiti, the first Star Wars, and Empire Strikes Back. And his influence is very large on those 3 films. I don't know for you, Kevin, how much you know about Gary Kurtz, but
I know he is the guy with the Abe Lincoln beard.
Yes.
And some behind-the-scenes stuff.
Yeah.
I do not know his entire life story, but...
yeah, I don't know the entire life story, but as regards to his relationship with Lucas for Star Wars and Empire, I know he was a heavy influence on the story that was being told. There are different stories, conflicting stories that will come about, but I was always a believer, and unless somebody's got some evidence to throw at me, and that's perfectly fine. Gary Kurtz was kind of one of the people around George Lucas, other than maybe George Lucas's wife, that was really good at kind of letting George have his ideas and then refining them into something, I guess, palatable would be kind of the way to put it, or just put it in a package that
kind of being able to
is the best
to reel them in and keep them focused.
Yeah,
and
like refine things. Right.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. refine might be a good word, kind of hone things down to appeal to the audience that they're looking for, as opposed to just kind of
to craft a story and because not to cut you off, but the reason I think Gary Kurtz held as much influence as the reason I believe he held a lot of influences, he was a producer for Star Wars and Empire, but not Return of the Jedi. And to me, you can see that there is, in fact, a big tonal shift between Empire being one of the darkest films in the saga, especially with just those, when looking at just those three, it's, easily the darkest. And then you get into Jedi, which becomes, the story is kind of playing out to where it needs to play, but then you have a lot more brevity and humor, and then you have these cuddly Ewoks. We're in the jungle. There are sight gags with the Ewoks throwing rocks on stormtroopers and stuff like that. So there's a big shift there that I attribute to Gary Kurtz leaving the project.
Yeah, he's quoted as saying after, or concerning his leaving, kind of the relationship with George Lucas. He said, I could see where things were headed. The toy businesses began to drive the empire. It's a shame. They make 3 times as much on toys as they do on films. It's natural to make decisions that protect the toy business, but that's not the best thing for making quality films. So he stated as saying that it says Kurtz claimed that after Raiders of the Lost Ark in 1981, Lucas became convinced that audiences no longer cared about the story and were simply there for the thrills and entertainment, and began to deviate from the originally planned plot lines of Return of the Jedi. It was at this point that Kurtz quit the series. So he couldn't, I guess Lucas at that point decided to take things in what Kurtz thought was a slightly different direction, and they couldn't come to an agreement, and Kurtz said, good luck, see you later. So I always found that behind the scenes stuff interesting. I had heard that quote before. So, I mean, what are your feelings on like do you see that tonal shift between Empire, Jedi, and how do you feel about that? So I think that I've seen the OT enough times that it doesn't affect me the way that it affects other people. As far as there are definitely differences from movie to movie. From A New Hope to Empire Strikes Back, there's a change. From Empire Strikes Back to Return of the Jedi, there's a change. And these things happen from movie to movie. And I think that's a good thing. I don't think that the Star Wars franchise would have been as successful if George Lucas would have directed all 3 movies and stuck to like this, cookie cutter idea of this is what worked for A New Hope, this is what we're doing. Being able to take a step sideways, I won't say take a step back, but take a step sideways and be open to new ideas and be open to the creative process of different directors and different screenwrites, I think worked in a positive manner, not only over the original trilogy, but beyond. George Lucas directing the prequel trilogy, all 3 of them, that could have been a hindrance to that process of forward change.
Yes.
But I think that George Lucas used those movies as a more of a technological achievement, like pushing forward, we're doing these things. And he used the story of Star Wars to push the medium forward. Whether or not he accomplished that, you can argue yes or no, right?
Yeah.
I really enjoy the prequel trilogy. Could things have been a little bit different had they kind of followed a similar path to what George Lucas had said that he was going to do, which was, if there's more Star Wars movies, I'll direct the first one, and then I'll open it up to other people to come in and, give their creative process, lend their creative process to the thing. So things could have been different, right? But then we get the sequel trilogy and the anthology films, and that's exactly what's happening. Is we have different writers, different directors coming in with kind of different visions of the way that the story needs to be told or the way the story needs to progress, and this is pissing a lot of people off. So I kind of throw that question back to anyone out there. How can you say, like, okay, George Lucas shouldn't have done this, and then
sequel happens.
We've had 3 different variations of the same type of thing. Like, originally George wrote and directed a thing, and then produced a couple more and was involved in it and had creative control over story and whatnot. That's the original trilogy, and then he came in for the prequel trilogy and did everything himself, and people blame Rick McCallum for being his yes man, and nobody told him no and all this shit, right? And then we have another trilogy that we're 2/3 through that he essentially has nothing to do with, and there are positive and negative things in all 3 of these. Originally George started writing for toys, just make this movie to make the toys and sell the fucking toys because I have all the merchandising rights, right? And then the prequel trilogy, we've got it's all about the process of technology and fucking everything's green screen. That's it. There's no location, blah blah blah, special effects, yada yada yada. Now we do have some story driven things, and it's J.J. Abrams just went back to the well and remade A New Hope, and Rian Johnson wrote this artistic approach and did his thing, and you'll talk to people, and some of them love it, say it's the best Star Wars movie ever, and some people say it killed Star Wars for them. So it's you can't please everybody, and I think that there has been such a wide range of approach to this series, to this franchise, that people should be able to have opinions. You can say this part's good, this part's not my thing, and
surely,
and everybody's not going to agree, and I think that's great. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, I guess. Maybe. Yeah, and beyond, I would say. But no, surely, yeah. That last point you bring up has always been fascinating to me, especially recently. Especially if you go anywhere near Reddit regarding anything Star Wars, there's a big old hate train for Last Jedi, but I just get confused because the movie didn't make nearly as much money as, say, Force Awakens, but that was its own craziness, right? It was the first Star Wars movie in a decade. So, but then there's just a lot of just pure vitriol for Star Wars, The Last Jedi, Rian Johnson, and her name's blank, from Kelly Marie Tran, of all people too.
Yeah, which is weird. That's just
it's inappropriate. It's just wrong. Let's be better.
That's purposefully choosing a target to blame shift and I don't even know. It doesn't. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. And I know we've talked about this before, but the thing you brought up too, where it's I know they're not the same people, but the idea that Force Awakens was too similar to other Star Wars movies, but then now Last Jedi is so different that, as you said, it destroys Star Wars for them. They never want to watch a single Star Wars movie, a new one, ever again.
Right? And then
Like, I'm like, oh my god, yeah,
and like all the shit that happened with Solo, and like, you know,
Mm-hmm.
oh, Solo sucks, and this and that, and blah blah blah. Recently on Twitter, I've seen a lot of people that I guess maybe picked up the digital version because that's already out.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas like the physical media
Is
doesn't
out
come out
tomorrow.
until tomorrow, right?
Yeah,
So
as
I'm
of
gonna
this
go.
recording.
I'm gonna go pick that up tomorrow. But I've seen a lot of people that are like, "Oh, watching this for the first time. This for the first time. It's amazing. It's amazing. I love this movie. Blah blah blah. This and that." And you guys can listen to our comments on Solo. That's somewhere in the feed. It's our first kind of special edition episode that we put out.
Yeah, episode 23 that came out on May 29th, 2018. I just happen to have
There you go.
the list of episodes up.
So if you want our opinions on that, see that episode.
Go there, yes.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, I've seen some other people through the internet saying, you know, it kind of makes them sad that, like, there are people out there that didn't seem to give Solo a chance and, you know, go and see it in theaters. I don't know if that's what it is. I don't know if the people that are now saying, oh, I'm seeing this movie for the first time. Like, there's some movies that I just simply don't make it to in theaters. Because there's a lot of fucking movies that come out every year. And you can't go to every single one of them. And being a huge Star Wars fan, obviously I'm going to go to those. Right?
Yes.
I'm a huge fan of the Marvel franchise, and I haven't hit all of those in theaters. Because sometimes you just can't.
Yes. Yeah.
So,
and that is understandable to me, but there's so we've talked about this before regarding Solo, but yeah, the fandom is bizarre. So there's a few things I was thinking about saying, but I'm like, I feel like I've already said it on this podcast, but the vitriol against like Kathleen Kennedy and all of that is bizarre too. But anyways, just to let's pull it back maybe just a little bit, but
yeah.
But Gary Kurtz's influence, I think, can't be overstated with how at least those first two Star Wars films were shaped.
For sure. Can't be overstated and shouldn't be forgotten.
Yes, absolutely. So I was unaware of I didn't look up how old he was or anything, but I did see that he had cancer in the last year. So
He
that
was
is unfortunate.
78 years old.
Oh wow, yeah. So yeah, it was just a sad piece of news that I came across, and definitely just wanted to bring that up and honor him as as we could on this podcast.
Yeah, Gary, if you're out there in the force and you can listen to some podcasts, we're thinking about you, man.
But yes, definitely, for sure. Because I've just as a Star Wars fan, when we're just dealing with two trilogies, I've always, you can't ask what ifs or whatever, but I am still just very curious what that Gary Kurtz version of whatever that final film, if it still would have been called Return of the Jedi, would have been, right?
Or Revenge of the Jedi.
It's something, yeah. Because I probably, like, way back in the first episode long ago, which I should probably listen to. Like, so not like the intro quick episode, but
You're talking
like the
about
longer
Cat and
one.
Mouse?
No, not Cat and Mouse. The one where you and I are just talking.
Uh-huh.
Where we, like, our host intro, whenever that was. Actually, no. Actually,
It was
sorry,
called,
no. So
it was titled The Nerds Awaken, right?
yes. Sorry. So I just realized what I'm looking at for Solo is when we recorded the episode, not when it came out. But it was episode 23. So I don't know when that appears in the feed, but it's somewhere in there. But so look around late May. I think I pushed it maybe the day after. Or
Yeah,
something
it came
like
out
that,
May 30th.
Yeah, so easy enough. But anyways, yeah. So the Nerds Awaken, where we that's when we ranked our favorite Star Wars films, just to kind of have an understanding of each other, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if I don't remember my ranking entirely, but I do remember ranking Return of the Jedi fairly low.
Yeah.
And getting into this discussion.
I think Return of the Jedi was up there for me. I feel like that was like
I think so.
number 3 or number 4.
Whereas
we'll have to do another ranking.
And then listen in afterwards and compare.
Yeah, we'll just cut the audio in from the first one, and then see where we're at. So
yeah,
let me let me buy Solo and watch that a couple more times before we do that. So
I agree. Yeah, the disc is being shipped to me tomorrow too. So I agree. I saw it twice in theaters actually. So, but yeah, just another view of that. Maybe another view of Last Jedi. I haven't seen. I've seen that a couple times on home media, but not lately. But yeah, I would.
Yeah,
I would like to talk about it.
I think I only saw Last Jedi in theaters once.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely saw Force Awakens twice. So we went and saw it in like the big dome IMAX.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Which was too
well,
much.
Domes are weird. Domes
It was too much.
You gotta find a normal. Yeah,
Yeah.
find a normal IMAX that's flat. Yeah. No, yeah. Force Awakens I saw 3 times. Rogue One I believe I saw twice. No, I saw that 3 times in
I
theaters.
saw that one once.
Yeah. And then Last Jedi I saw 3 times. Solo I've seen twice. But a lot of it's circumstance though too. So like with Force Awakens, this is the exact circumstance for Force Awakens and Last Jedi, where I saw whatever premiere showing that I could get tickets to. So like my sister, cousin, brother came with, but then I saw it one more time with my dad, and then I saw it one more time with my best friend who lives in Chicago, and I was back home at Christmas time in Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
So he and I were like, no, we need to watch this together, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So same thing happened with Rogue One. I saw a premiere, then I saw it with my dad, then I saw it with my buddy. But then Solo coming out in May, where I was in California, not home or anything like that, you know. I saw it twice rather than the required 3, as I should say.
I'm gonna bring up one other thing before we hop into this episode of Bounty Hunters.
Yes.
Bob Iger recently, I don't know if he's quoted as, or it's an implication, or basically said, or however you want to say it, but that they're kind of pumping the brakes on the speed of Star Wars release as far as movies go. And Episode 9 still coming out on time, and then there are other things in the works that he has said, yes, these movies are being worked on, blah, blah, whatever. But that they're going to be less focused on getting a Star Wars movie out like every year on schedule. Mm-hmm. Like, here's one, and just let the filmmakers make the fucking movies and then release them.
I believe Kathleen Kennedy said something similar as well. Like they're reevaluating the side stories too, I think is how she phrased it.
Yeah, I haven't read that, but that kind of saddens me a little bit because I think that there's some good stuff that was probably already in the works.
Sorry, you were going to ask something though.
I was just kind of ask your thoughts on that. If that is surprising, if you think it's a good idea, if you think it's overreacting.
I don't think it's overreacting. It's definitely after Solo, which, you know, it didn't tank, comparatively speaking. You know, it's like Marvel movies have made just about where Solo settled up at, and nobody's like calling for the resignation of Kevin Feige.
I think the problem was essentially the double production of the movie, which inflated the cost of the production of the movie, and then, you know, so when you make, I don't remember what Solo made.
I don't know that figure off the top of my head, but I will agree with Bob Iger that a movie shouldn't be forced through production just because you have like a deadline. I honestly would have been fine waiting a whole extra year for Solo if it gave everybody time to, like, I think the end product was absolutely fine. Could have been better, yes, but I think it was actually a pretty darn well made movie, especially considering the circumstances. But even without that context whatsoever, I still think it was a fine movie. Mm-hmm. But my major issue is that I'm just curious how a movie like that with directors that the producers didn't feel comfortable with, how a movie like that left pre-production, because that's what pre-production is for.
Right, how it got so deep into
Like actual production.
You know why it happened is because they had a fucking deadline. They had to push forward.
To push through, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's so arbitrary. Like, there was nothing about Solo that... It's one thing that, like, if Captain Marvel got messed up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that seems like a movie that needs to come out before whatever this next Avengers movie is in 2019, right?
Yeah.
Like, these are playing off of each other.
I'm pretty sure it's called Avengers, The Avengers, and Howard the Duck, I think.
That would be amazing. The Howard the Duck saves all. Howard the Duck saves the day. Any of these top titles. But like Solo is it's world building. It's not. It's setting up its own thing as far as I can tell, but it doesn't seem to be anything that is directly tying into, say, new trilogy stuff, right?
Right.
Like, there was nothing here that helped inform whatever's happening between Rey and Kylo and that saga.
Right.
So, if this got pushed an entire year to May 2019, so be it. Because even at that point, I mean, yes, I think that was the original date for Episode 9, but they have since pushed that back after the Colin Trevorrow switcheroo, But yeah, so it's... I would rather them be sure they have a good movie rather than, trying to meet deadlines. Bob Iger has been an interesting person to follow because I think he's a great CEO. He's definitely brought Walt Disney as a full company to absolutely new heights that Michael Eisner laid the foundation for, but then ultimately towards the end of Michael Eisner's run dismantled in awful ways that Bob Iger is still trying to clean up even a decade later. But I think, Bob Iger is a smart guy, it seems. The mistakes are made, and then what he does is just try and refine and move on, right? So yeah, he and to be fair, he at least doesn't take the cheap way out. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Like, I feel like under Eisner they would have just had those two, Lord and Miller, finish out that movie just to save costs. And just pump out whatever the fuck you could, like.
Yeah, so I'm looking at numbers for Solo. Mm-hmm. It was $365 million was the worldwide box office.
Okay.
This is Rogue One was 532. Last Jedi was 620.
Worldwide that's pretty rough. Yeah.
Episode 3. 380. So it's $14 million less than what was then the last Star Wars movie ever.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. Like, these like worldwide numbers, like not every movie is going to do Force Awakens numbers. Not every movie is going to do Black Panther numbers, right? Like Ant-Man came out and it opened at like, I don't know, 70 million or something like that, 80 million,
right?
Which is a big number. But, it's not the 210 of Force Awakens or whatever. Right. And again, nobody fucking cries out like Feige needs to be fired for such a colossal bomb.
Right.
Not every movie is going to do Infinity War numbers. And that's fucking okay.
Yeah, I didn't even see Infinity War on the list that I was looking at.
So, that's... I get that you and I have a podcast built around being fans that pick apart things, but then we're still trying to be tempered and fair most of the time to as much as we can. But yeah, this whole weird thing about fans just going up in arms and sharpening pitchforks and
we definitely try to have, if we have criticism, we try to have a basis for our criticism, not just that movie sucked because I didn't like it.
Yeah.
Guess what? I don't like Metallica, and from what I understand, Metallica is really fucking good at what they do, and they are a good Metallica type band, right?
That's a good example because I don't like
metal,
I don't
right?
Yeah, heavy metal.
They are fucking heavy metal. They are awesome at what they do. I don't like Metallica, but I can't say, oh, Metallica sucks because I don't like Metallica.
Exactly.
That's not the way that my criticism works.
Mm-hmm.
I may say I don't like this because of whatever, but not simply because I don't like it.
Exactly. So it's an interesting. I don't know. It's because also like the thing with Solo too is like the fans that did watch it in movie theaters like, hey, Solo's really good, please go watch it. But then like you had those Last Jedi people were like, no, like I'm trying to send a message. I'm like, no, you should have done that with Last Jedi. I don't.
Yeah.
Like if word of mouth was that strong.
But they didn't have a message to send until they saw it.
Which is fine, but then that will still happen with a lot of other movies, right? Where like it might do really well initially and then tail off, right?
I have a feeling that DVD sales and whatnot are going to be sufficient enough that Disney and Star Wars is going to go, all right, like maybe we can calm down with whether or not we're canceling things or progressing with things or whatever, and just fucking let's just let things be and move forward, because that's all they need to do.
That's it. I mean, because like every other movie is still in pre-production. The only one in production is Episode 9.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It did move into production, I believe.
I think it started filming back in August.
Yeah, exactly. So they've been going for a month or two.
Right.
Everything else is still in pre-production. So I mean, keep that rolling, and then if as major producers and studio heads and whatever.
If this new trilogy of movies that Rian Johnson is supposed to be directing actually happens and you absolutely fucking hated The Last Jedi, don't go watch them.
Yeah, don't go watch that, But then don't turn around and be like, yeah, like Solo wasn't bad. Like, I don't know why I didn't see that in theaters. Like, bitch, you said it exactly to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Like, in all caps, right?
Right. Boycott Solo in all caps.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
So I mean, you
want to hop into Bounty Hunters here?
Yeah. So the last thing, I get that we are two dudes complaining on the internet, but I understand the irony of that. But like,
I think that our praise is allocated in proper doses as well, though.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. I mean, it's
so we're not a podcast that is dedicated to just talking shit about something. Like, we are interested in this subject, and we have passion while we're talking about Star Wars, and sometimes we have a critical response to some things, and sometimes we have a praising response to things. But I feel like we do have a balance there.
And the other thing I do want to bring up is that with the end of that last conversation, this is where my mind went, and then it completely lost it, and then tried to bring it back, and then didn't quite in the right way. But
and then you failed like Solo.
Oh, so badly, yeah, so badly. I would gladly take $300 million, but with the last bit regarding production and stuff, like that is their job. They can do it however they see fit. So I have a lot of trust. Like you and I aren't filmmakers on that level, right? Like I've been in pre-production meetings, I've gone through actual productions, I've had to put together post-production shit, right? Like
I am not a filmmaker at all. My job is to grow grass, and I'm not talking about Colorado grass, like
literal
front
yard
lawn and turf and grass and plants. So I am in a green industry, but not like the green industry.
Mm-hmm.
So
you're in the green industry of making money.
That would be nice too. That's that's part of why we get up every day and go to work. But yeah, that's what I do. So I don't make films. I just talk about them.
No, but yeah, so like my last point was like I have faith in Bob Iger and Kathleen Kennedy to do the jobs that they have been doing for decades.
Mm-hmm.
Well, So anyways, yes, let's get into this episode now that we've been chatting about everything that's been happening. It's been a good catch up, I would say. Yeah. So this week we are talking about bounty hunters. We do have a little bit of jump from Children of the Force, which was episode 3 of season 2.
Season 2, episode 3. So we're 14 episodes past that.
Yep. So now we're on episode 17 of season 2. The air date for this episode, it has 2 of them actually, depending on region. This one splits up a little bit. In the U.S., it aired on April 2nd, 2010. Mm-hmm. But in UK and Canada, it aired on March 27th, 2010. So they got a week early.
Yeah, so this is actually the third, through chronology, this is the second time that it's happened. Mm-hmm. It actually happened for Cat and Mouse, the first episode that we covered.
Yes.
It aired 1 week earlier in UK and Canada. And then Senate Murders, which will be coming up later. Actually, I think quite a bit later, like a couple of months from now, also aired 1 week earlier in Canada, in the UK. I'm not sure why these 3 episodes had that jump, but they did. So there you go.
Yep. Yeah, I was not able to see any reasoning either. I was going to ask you, but there you go. The fortune cookie for this one is courage makes heroes, but trust builds friendships.
Who you got?
This one was difficult. I was going to go with Qui-Gon on this one.
I went with Ahsoka.
Ooh, that's a good one.
I feel like Ahsoka is more apt to be talking about friends and friendship and whatnot. Like
You're right.
She's gonna have like, I feel like this is like during a pep talk where like Rex talks about courage or something. She's like, yeah, what is it? Courage makes heroes. Like, yeah, courage makes heroes, but trust builds friendships.
And then they go into like an 80s freeze frame. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense to me. Yeah, the only reason I kind of went with Qui-Gon is the trust bit. I feel like he is a guy who would talk about trust over courage, per se, But no, Ahsoka makes a lot of sense based on exactly what you just said. The friendship. Seeing friendship as an end goal is something Ahsoka would totally do.
Mm-hmm.
So, that makes a lot of sense.
So, real quick, this is directed by Stuart Lee, and the writer is Carl Ellsworth. And this episode actually starts slightly different than most episodes that we see, in that it is dedicated to Akira Kurosawa.
Mm-hmm. Indeed.
So,
and it's, as we get into the episode, it becomes very clear why they dedicated this episode to Akira Kurosawa. But we'll bring it up as to why when it makes sense.
Sure.
But let's jump into the newsreel. So the in memory of comes up even before the
fortune cookie, even before the Clone Wars logo.
Yep, completely.
Yep.
So it is
the first,
and
thing
it's
that
interesting
you would see.
Because it's black background with red text, which I found interesting as a format. But it's against silence. It's set against silence.
Yep.
Then it goes into the Clone Wars anthem. But yeah, and then we get to the newsreel after the fortune cookie, as we tend to do.
What did you think of the newsreel?
The newsreel, I had questions about. So like this one definitely. We've made our jump between seasons, episode 3 to 2017. So I'm very curious as we start backfilling in the episodes in between. But so from my vantage point as of right now, this one just definitely looks like a normal crawl, like opening crawl thing. So then, this is during the setup of the context for this episode, we get a lot of footage happening.
Yeah, so I have 2 comments on the newsreel. 1, I do not remember what the narrator said at all. And 2, my only note is this is a bunch of shit that we haven't seen before, plus sand troopers, question mark. Because at the very end you see like these kind of khaki colored troopers on
somewhere.
Stretchers is the word I was looking for. Being loaded onto like a lat or something. I'm thinking that these are all scenes that we're going to see, or that we'll see later in our story, but that have been seen if you're watching them in release order. Because I've decided
I had that thought too, yeah.
Depending on when the production of these things, like what the production number is, anything before that, like this is production number 219 as opposed to season 2 episode 17, right? So anything that is in production or production number 218 or before could potentially be shown in that newsreel. So I think some of the stuff we're going to see, but it was kind of a generic like war is happening and shit's going down, and I think the narrator talks about like these med facilities that were set up for injured clones or whatever, and Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Ahsoka for some reason are going to investigate one.
Yes.
Right?
So essentially it's just war is happening, and it just sets up the general idea that medical stations are there for troopers like no fucking shit.
Well, we've also already seen one.
Yeah. But you're correct. Ahsoka, Anakin, and Obi-Wan are going to investigate a medical station that they've lost contact with as well.
Oh, is that what it is? Okay.
Yeah. So it's they're headed towards the system of Felucia.
Yep.
And they're trying to investigate the medical station that would be orbiting around the planet.
Yeah. We've got no R2 with them. But visually we're connected to the last episode because they're in the same type of shuttle that Mace and Obi-Wan took with Cad Bane to go get the holocron. So
that one with like the kind of giant wingspan that will rotate around whatever. Yeah,
it's like a half a frisbee. That's got
like
some wing orientation changes.
Yeah, because it can be vertical or it can be horizontal. I don't know.
Yeah.
But so it's just these 3. When they get to Felucia, there is no medical station. It's totally gone. They pretty much immediately get attacked by a bunch of vulture droids that open out of this base.
Yep. It is considered a vulture droid base. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah, it's a weird contraption where like they're kind of folded under, and then like they sense danger, so they all like kind of pop out. It kind of reminded me of the old what are they called? The I called them in my childhood the cootie catchers. Like when you open up one of those guys, do you remember those?
No.
They were like the little folded pieces of paper that you could write shit on the inside of.
Oh, Lorenzo is doing this thing with his fingers where his thumbs and his index fingers come together in 4, and then you separate both of your index fingers from your thumb, and then you replace them, and then you separate one index finger and one thumb on each hand
across,
and separate them. That's funny.
Yeah, we call them cootie catchers.
Cootie catchers.
Yeah, what'd you call them?
I don't know.
What's the official term of that shit? Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not a 4th grade girl.
Come on, man.
Nor have I been.
How did you know your future unless you started picking up random shit inside the cootie catcher and unfolding that shit?
Yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about, but I have no idea.
But that's what it looked like to me, like when you unfold that thing, you know?
Yeah.
But anyways.
I thought it was cool. It was a nice design. It was a little bit bizarre that... because Ahsoka's kind of narrating what's going on. She's like, "Oh, where's the med facility? Oh, I see something on the scope." Like, come on.
And it's a fucking droid base, yeah.
And that there's only like one single vulture droid base that just has like 5 vulture droids and that's it. And, like,
yeah, that's kind of what I didn't...
There's no other occupation of the planet. Like, we're going to find out that there are no separatists on the planet.
At all. Like, they don't know really that it's there.
Yeah, this med facility was just like taken out, and in lieu of it is, I guess, just like some patrol vulture droids, and that's it.
Yeah, because I also had the question, like, how did the vulture droid base get out that way? You know, like, how does it have its own light speed? Right? Like,
well, I would imagine that whatever took out the med facility,
maybe just left it
behind. But
like, we'll be coming back.
Right.
We're gonna put this here.
But what we've always seen in the past is like the interest in the planet as well. So it doesn't seem to follow
like, we got the med base, we need nothing else here.
Procedure, I'm not really sure.
Yeah.
So where do we go from here? We found these.
So the vulture droids attack the shuttle that Anakin, Obi, and Ahsoka are on. You know, a few quips go back and forth, like, oh, great, you know, from Obi-Wan, and like, why are we always getting shot when Anakin's flying?
Yeah, Ahsoka says, how come every time we fly, we crash? And Anakin's like, it's not my fault, it's the ship's.
It's the ship. So they straight up start crash landing into the planet, and right at the last second, the three of them eject from the shuttle.
Yep.
Which I thought was a fun design. So they pop out the roof like normal like Air Force jets, pilots. You know. Yeah, pilots pop out the top, and then like this protective bubble.
Yeah, instead of a parachute, it's like a giant beach ball that inflates around them, and they bounce safely to the ground.
Yeah.
Anakin is the one that pulls or pushes the ejection button or something, because he definitely waits till like the last possible second, so that when they eject, their craft smashes into this mountain, and the really smart vulture droids just fucking smash into the mountain behind them also. So they're taken out. Like, threat has been neutralized. They bounce down to the ground. Luckily, these things orientate themselves upright.
Yeah, there's like some sort of stabilization that as soon as, like, they'll keep rolling around, you know, but then once they come to a rest, they figure out what up is.
Which is weird, because I don't know that necessarily they always do. I think they could potentially rest upside down. And the reason for this is because there is some Arabesh writing on the outside of these things. And what it says is, caution, explosive extrusion. And it's written, it's like this. So on the top half of the beach ball, it's written right side up, and on the bottom half of the beach ball, it's written upside down, so that even if it did rest on the opposite side of the spine, you would still be able to read it upright. So I don't know if something on the inside can also orient, because there's definitely like a band that goes around from top to bottom on a latitude, I guess, circumference, that looks like it'll either sit on, you know, the top or the bottom. So I don't know if the middle has an orientation to it, or if sometimes unlucky folk just get stuck upside down.
That might be it. Like, so, like, maybe like on flat ground, there's a way to orientate itself, but like sometimes it'll get wedged in something, maybe.
Right.
My understanding is that Anakin was counting down, but it seemed like they each had to eject themselves out.
Oh, so he was just like, no, hold on.
Okay. Yeah, for whatever reason, I read it as them each having to pull their own thing out. So,
and you're probably right on that. I think that Anakin was just giving his suggestion, like, because I think
of when to.
Yeah, I think Ahsoka was like, now, or Obi-Wan was like, now, and he was like, no, wait, okay, now.
Yeah.
So
anyway, so they crash land in some sort of jungle situation, and like some big creatures come out, and they have a really cool look to them. I did not see what these things were called.
They're Rancors.
Oh, they were Rancors.
Yeah, that's what they are.
Ew. They just look different. I don't know why.
They do. There's
right?
a couple different
me?
variations. Right. No, there's a couple different variations of Rancors.
Okay.
But
there you go.
that is what they are. It's like in the Force Unleashed video game, whatever the dude's name is, Starkiller or whatever, goes to Felucia and fights Rancors there. So I think in old EU, it was known that Rancors, like one planet that they come from is Felucia. So I think that is what this episode is referencing.
Okay.
Because, spoiler alert, we never see a Rancor again for the rest of the show. Like,
they are not the villains at all.
Not
even
at all.
though they are the things that come up. They pose not a threat or danger at all. They pass them by. They create some fear for our three heroes in this, our three protagonists in this episode.
Yeah, it's like a half a second of tension where, it's like we get out of the beach balls. Anakin's like, everybody okay? Yeah, everybody's okay. And then somebody's like, oh shit, fucking creatures. And then they're like, oh no. And then they just walk off stage left and the Rancors are gone. And that's it.
Yeah, that's it. So then there's this like odd little fight that happens then where Anakin is like, well, I just have this feeling that we should go this way. And Obi-Wan disagrees. And they get in a back and forth. And then Ahsoka is like, hey, guys, there's smoke over there, which means somebody had to light it. So how about we head that way?
Smoke means fire. Fire potentially means people. So keep bitching.
So she just walks off. Yeah, she walks off, and then they both follow her. They're like, hey, yeah, that's a good idea. I guess let's head that way.
Not only that, but there's this beautiful, clear walking trail through the fungal jungle, and it leads straight there. So I don't know. It seems like it was probably a pretty easy decision to make.
Right.
Ahsoka's like, hey, look, a village. And Anakin's comment is great. Let's see if we can borrow a ship. And I'm using air quotes here that you can't see. He means steal. That he's going to go in and do whatever he can to finagle a ship that he can use to fly away.
So then they really quickly notice that the village is deserted. There's nobody there. A lot of empty homes and all that stuff. But it is a farming village. And is it Obi-Wan the one who points out that it's a Nycillan spice farm?
Yep. He calls it Nycillan, and then later it's just called Silum with an M instead of an N, which is confusing. And when you look up Nycillan or Silum on Wikipedia, it's the same shit. It's just a different name. And I almost feel like I almost feel like James Arnold Taylor like mispronounced it as Nycillan this one time, and then everybody else read it as Silum.
And just went with it.
And they just rolled with it because there's no reason for it to be different. Side note, in there's like a new mobile app, like Star Wars Adventures game or some shit, right? I don't know what it is. But there is a clone. Captain Karg, C-A-R-G, goes to the planet of Felucia and fights neuropirates who are trying to take over a Nycillan farm. It's like a mirror of this episode, but it's just it's in the Star Wars Clone Wars adventure. So
Very nice.
You go. Which is weird.
Why?
That's
just
because it's like the exact same. It's like the exact same thing, but they
like
just
they
replace a couple of names.
They're fully Well, let's keep going through this episode because there's more about this episode too that we need to loop back to things we've already brought up.
Yes. Supposedly this is the most valuable crop in the galaxy, which sounds kind of fishy.
It's just a random tidbit based on information that kind of contradicts other things we may or may not know about. Like, it's just a weird throwaway line. But So they're kind of investigating the village, and Anakin kind of brings up this point that, when back on Tatooine, if you want to know what a farmer was up to, you'd take a look in the barn. So he just freely walks up to the barn and opens it up, and there is a ship in there.
Yep, he just hits the garage door button and opens the garage. And I thought this was funny because if on Tatooine you looked in the garage at the Lars Skywalker homestead, what would you see?
It's just like the few moisture evaporators and like some blue milk lying around, right? And then their speeder.
Their speeder and like the T-16 Skyhopper and the oil bath. So none of this would tell you anything about what the fucking farm is for.
Right, yeah. So it's a weird logic that gets brought up. And the only thing that this is there is to establish that the ship exists, and Obi-Wan does point out that it's a weird ship for a farmer, but it might be their way out.
Right. So Obi-Wan kind of wanders off, and then Anakin and Ahsoka just break into this farmer's house.
Yes. I thought that was fucking weird, too, that they just freely walk in. They hit the button, door opens.
Yep.
They walk in. Anakin finds a hatch, like in the floor.
Of course.
Opens it up, and there's a family down there, but they definitely look very afraid. Ahsoka points out as such, and then this is when they get surrounded by 4 bounty hunters.
Yep, we meet our 4 bounty hunters, and we don't really meet them for a while as far as named. Learn who the fuck they are.
Yeah,
one of them is never named in this episode.
Absolutely. Yeah. And this definitely kind of bothered me a little bit, but I mean, it's par for the course with the show. But in hindsight, watching the rest of this episode, it was really weird that there was never like a proper introduction for this one. But it's not the. Go ahead.
Do you want to just introduce who these people are so we can call them by name instead of? I think in my notes along the way it was like BH1, BH2, BH3, BH4.
Yes. So the 4 bounty hunters are Sugi, Sugi, Embo, Embo, Rumi, Rumi, and then Serapis, Seripas.
So Sugi is a 6-foot-tall Zabrak Erodian. Serapis is a 2-foot-5-inch some unknown homeworld, unknown species, which is interesting.
But that's not how we see him at first.
Yeah, we see him in a giant Iron Man suit. Yeah,
he's in a robo suit, so he looks like this big thing.
Yeah, vis-a-vis the alien in the human robot form in Men in Black.
Yes. Like the design, I mean, I know this one predates the other, but it reminds me of the big thing that comes to whatever city that was in New Mexico in the first Thor movie that gets sent from Asgard. The big guardian thingy, right?
Yeah. I don't know what it's called. The guardian thingy.
Yeah,
the face thingy. Fire breather.
Yeah. Like that weird fucking thingy. But anyways, carry on with the other.
Embo is a Cayuzo from Fatrong. Whatever the fuck that is. And then the last bounty hunter is actually the one that's never named in this episode, and she has a last name.
Why?
I have no idea, but her name is Rumi Paramita. She is supposed to be second in command. Her homeworld is Gorabe. She is 7 foot 1 inches tall and is known for wearing a faded Frank military uniform. Frank is her species. And she's in maybe 3 scenes in this episode, and that's it. She's got no other credits in Star Wars, so why there's so much other information about her, I have no idea.
I don't know. But anyway, so these 4 are holding guns up to Anakin and Ahsoka. They get in this little banter where they're like Embo says something in an alien language. Anakin responds, and he's like, well, I forgot exactly what they say.
They're
but
basically
it's
talking
like one
like
versus
who outnumbers
4.
who. Yeah.
Yeah, and then Ahsoka's like, "There's 2 of us," and it's like, "We don't count you because you're like you're knee high." Blah blah blah. It's just weird banter. And then Obi-Wan steps in and was like, "What about 3?" And then we get into a Mexican standoff, where it cuts back and forth between like the faces of each of them. And then some other dude randomly runs in.
Lorenzo's racist point in this episode, apparently.
Hey man, so this is what a Mexican standoff is, when you just don't know who is gonna come out the victor. That's all it is. So then some other dude runs in, also not named. He's like this tiny little villager. He's like yelling, telling them all to stand down, essentially. And he's like telling the bounty hunters, he's like, "Yo, like these are Jedi. Can you not tell that they're Jedi? Like,
yeah, we're saved. We're good.
Yeah, why are you threatening the Jedi?" He is named fairly soon, but I'll just name him here. He is named Cassis.
Mm-hmm.
So he seems to be like the elder of this village.
Yep.
We get a nice scene that's high exposition, where they're sitting. All of them are sitting around a table, and Cassis is describing that pirates are demanding half of the crops, and that he hired the bounty hunters for protection. But the 4 bounty hunters still weren't going to be enough. But now that there are 7 of them,
of you,
yeah, and like 3 of them are Jedi, and this will be fantastic. And it is at this point in the episode that the Akira Kurosawa reference at the beginning makes perfect sense.
There's actually another point. If we were introduced to things with their names, then it would have come up earlier, because the name of this farming village is Akira.
Oh, is it? See, no, that's gone. Yeah, that
This
never gets mentioned. I don't even.
Nope.
I didn't know that.
It's only in supplementary information.
Yeah, Jesus. So yeah, this is clearly a Seven Samurai reference. Which it's interesting. We'll talk a little bit more about this, but just real quick, history on Seven Samurai came out in when did it come out? 1957, I believe.
That sounds right.
So 1954. Sorry, 1954. And as we have discussed, Akira Kurosawa films have been a huge influence on George Lucas and the Star Wars franchise. With I mentioned some episode long ago, I'm sure that Akira Kurosawa's The Hidden Fortress is a major influence on the story structure for A New Hope. And also, just taking a step out of the Star Wars universe, the Seven Samurai story is one that has been emulated many times over. So it was essentially remade in America as The Magnificent Seven.
Okay.
Which in itself got a recent remake with Denzel Washington, Chris Pratt, who else? Like Ethan Hawke. I always forget his name. Jun Bon Hung or something like that from Korea.
I don't know. I'll let you struggle with that one. I have no idea.
I forgot his. Yeah, I always mess up. But he's on the show Mr. Sunshine right now on Netflix that I've slowly been watching, and it's fucking insane. And it also, if you pay really close attention, A Bug's Life is essentially a Seventh Samurai remake as well.
Is there 7? Is there 7 of them in A Bug's Life?
I don't remember if there's exactly 7 of them, but it is the story of A Bug's Life is the ant farm gets invaded by the grasshoppers, who are going to take half of their seeds.
Good point.
So then Flick goes to hire warriors to try and protect them, and then ends up hiring circus performers.
Mm-hmm.
But then the circus performers teach the ants how to defend for themselves.
Yeah, so full disclosure, I've never seen Seven Samurais. And so
I was going to ask. That was my next question.
I did not get the Akira Kurosawa reference until after I had watched this episode the first time, and then I was looking into some other information on it, and then I was like, oh, okay, I get it now. It makes sense.
Yeah, we'll
so I would have had no idea.
Yeah, we'll talk more, or I will talk more about Seven Samurai in relation to this episode. I just kind of want to give a brief overview of Seven Samurai's impact, but then we can talk more specifics about this episode versus Seven Samurai.
Sure.
In kind of the end.
In the thumbs up,
wrap
thumbs
up.
down.
Yeah, in the wrap up.
Okay.
I have some thoughts on that, not negative or positive, just interesting kind of things. Or we'll see. We'll get there. But
Okay.
I just thought it'd be important to kind of mention the legacy of Seven Samurai and why a Clone Wars episode may want to dive into this story.
Yeah.
But anyway, so like as soon as I heard 7, it became very explicit. I was like, oh, I see where it's going. Okay, I got it. Fantastic. So moving on. So yeah, essentially, did I already describe? Yeah. So pirates want half the crops. Hired bounty hunters. Obi-Wan.
Yes.
Kind of declines the help.
Yeah, Sugi is like, what do you guys want? And Obi-Wan's like, a ship. And Anakin's like, I want your ship. And she says no. And then Ahsoka's like, oh, we need to help these people. And Obi-Wan's like, we couldn't even if we wanted to. Then they have this weird discussion about why they can't help. But Obi-Wan really doesn't give a reason. He's like, what we're doing is that we need to report back to the Republic about this med facility that isn't there anymore, and if we're here too long, then the Separatists are going to come looking for us, which doesn't make any sense.
Like, how would they know?
Right, how would they know? Because I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, the droids got destroyed, but I mean...
I guess.
But the only other thing I would bring up right now, just for later information, is that Anakin does kind of bring up a plan where he's like, well, why aren't he looks at the main villager or whoever's in there and is like, why aren't you guys fighting? And the villager is like, we are farmers. Like, we don't know how to fight. That's why we hired bounty hunters, right?
Yeah, I think that actually happens later, but it is in one of these talks with the villagers.
Yeah, it does happen at the table. So it happens right before Obi-Wan says we can't help. Because I went back and double checked because I was like, I feel like I've heard this before, but Anakin walks around the table and then says like, why don't you guys learn to fight? And then like that idea gets shot down, and then that's when Sugi talks to Obi-Wan, and then we get into this thing. There's a scene cut too where like Obi-Wan says no to helping out, and Ahsoka's like, why not? And then we jump to outside.
I'm gonna actually you here, and actually, it does happen later. It happens the next time we're inside, because Obi-Wan and Ahsoka go outside, and then the pirates show up. This is when we meet the pirates. We see Hondo again.
That's why I'm bringing it up, though, because it happens twice, and it bothered me.
Oh, Anakin does it twice?
Anakin says it twice, and it completely bothers me. That's why I wanted to stop, because Anakin
actually was actually, so...
Yeah.
Fair enough. Put me on, please.
No, that's why I wanted to bring that up, because it's going to lead into why the fuck are we saying this again? Like, I get it becomes important, but it's still just like one of these weird fucking things that happens.
Yeah, it's like a third of the episode, if not half of the episode.
Yeah. So, yeah, but then carrying on, yes, pirates show up. So pirates show up.
They want their shit. It ends up being Hondo and his gang, and then Hondo like calls out Obi-Wan and Anakin, like, "Hey guys, good to see you. You didn't have to come all the way, halfway across the galaxy to see me," and this and that. And they have a discussion about friendship and what all that means. And then there's this weird, like, everybody's trying to fucking pay off the other person thing, where Hondo is trying to pay off Sugi and her gang, and he's like, I'll pay you double to just stay out of the way. And then Obi-Wan's like, no, Hondo, I'll pay you double than whatever you'll get for this shit to just like take me somewhere else
and like leave these fuckers alone
and leave these people alone. He's like,
it's a win-win,
win for everybody. So
yes,
that was kind of a weird three-way, like one-upper
side deal with a
one-upper
side deal. Yeah, side deal on a side deal on a side deal. So then Essentially, Hondo doesn't take the deal on the basis that he doesn't want to accept Republic credits, is all.
Yeah, he wants them drugs.
Yeah, exactly. So then Hondo leaves, essentially, and is like basically threatening the villagers once again, right?
Yeah, he makes the comment, nobody's leaving this planet until I get my Silum.
Yeah. So then we end up in another indoor scene where Obi-Wan generates some sort of plan. He's like, well, you're going to need people here, and you're going to need people here. Like, they're looking at a hologram of the village.
Because he's like, right? you're going to have a war on two fronts, up here and down here. They're going to come from, like, that cliffside, and they're going to, like, come through this nice walking path that you guys built.
Yes. So then this is when Anakin brings up, like, hey, why don't we teach you guys how to fight?
Yeah, this is what I thought you were talking about, so my apologies of trying to correct you earlier.
Oh, no, that's fine. That's fine, because, like, when he said it here, it made me confused if I did already hear it, if I was misremembering. So then I did go back, and I was like, shit, he said it. Because what bothered me about this very minor detail is that he brings it up as if he were bringing up for the first time. You know, like, there's no weird, like, snarkiness of, like, hey, what about my idea from earlier? Why don't you guys learn how to fight? He just goes, hey, why don't we teach you guys how to fight?
Have you ever had that weird friend that, like, wants to try to be a part of a conversation or something and just isn't nailing it, so they just, like, keep repeating the same idea until somebody pays attention?
Oh, surely I've probably been that person in a conversation.
I am often that person. But so I can totally feel for him, and I think that's probably what's going on. He's like, hey, I got this great idea. Like, we'll just teach them to fight, and everybody fucking ignores them. Yeah. And then some pirates show up, and then Obi-Wan's like, hey, you guys are going to have to deal with these pirates.
And there's only 4 bounty hunters. You guys aren't going to make it. It's not looking great.
And Anakin's like, hey, why don't we teach them to fight? Like, same fucking idea. I already fucking threw it out. I'll just pretend like it's new because everybody ignored me last time. Yeah. So that's probably a good point. So, but it's just from a storytelling perspective, it was just odd. Not the most troubling thing in the show, but yeah. But carry on. Go ahead. We do meet another Felucian here named Delani, who is a total fucking negative Nancy the entire time. And one of my bigger notes on this guy is that the voice acting for him sounds, to me, more similar to Ahmed Best's Jar Jar Binks than the Jar Jar Binks replacement. Now that you say that, I don't disagree. If you tweaked it a little bit, it would be a really good Jar Jar Binks impression. Yeah, I don't disagree with you. So I didn't hear it while watching the episode, but I can see what you mean, for sure. So, Mr. Filoni, when you bring back Jar Jar Binks for Season 7 of the Clone Wars... Yes. Or Resistance. If you can't get Ahmed Best, get this guy. Yeah, get this person. But yeah, I'm sure they would do a good job. So, this time, Anakin's plan does stick, correct? Mm-hmm. I'm not jumping the gun this time. Nope, you're good. So, there is so as they're starting to implement this idea of teaching the villagers to fight, there's some cute scenes of, like, you know, Anakin's like, all right, let's get into formations, and the villagers are just standing around. They don't know what this means. They're like, we're farmers. We're not military soldiers. So then he's like, getting to rows of 5, and they still don't really do it. But there's a short little montage, and by montage I mean like literally like maybe 2 or 3 shots of them starting the process of learning how to fight, and then we get a little scene with Obi-Wan and Sugi discussing the intentions of the bounty hunters. Okay. Where Obi-Wan is trying to make sure that their intentions isn't just profit, because they're putting all of the Nycilin into the barn, but then the barn is also supposed to be where the villagers go in a last effort retreat. Mm-hmm.
And Obi-Wan's just concerned that there won't be space for villagers, and Sugi's like, no, like, believe me, I've been paid to protect these people. I will do it. You know.
Yeah,
like,
she makes a real good comment. She says the Silum and the villagers are a lot easier to protect when they're in the same place.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
like, at the beginning of this conversation, I was totally on Obi-Wan's side, because Obi-Wan's like, oh, you're more concerned about the Silum than you are about the villagers. And then they banter back and forth, and then she drops this little bombshell of a plan, and I was like, holy shit, that makes fucking perfect sense. Like,
right.
Any poo-poo on you, Obi-Wan. Like, you stuck your foot in your mouth there. But we do have some nice details where, while Anakin's trying to get these dudes to line up and all this shit, you see the harvest going on in the background.
Yes.
And you see
there's like a big machine.
Yeah, it's like a combine is what it would be called on planet Earth. It's just a combination machine is what it is. That's why it's called a combine.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like farting out these little cubes of Silum.
Which I want to point out from a animation standpoint, I found these little cubes really funny because they're literally cubes with like texture, like a flat layer of texture on them. Like you see one sort of close up behind Sugi when Obi-Wan and Sugi are talking, and it just looks like a Minecraft box, even though again we're like predating it by however many years at this point.
That's exactly what like the clones boxes that they fucking carry around all the time are.
Yeah, like there's
like
it's
just a different texture.
Clearly,
it's like the same size, even different texture.
Yeah, it's just the 6 fucking pixels, not pixels, polygons it takes to fucking make the box, and they're like, no, don't add any more polygonal detail to that shit. No, just draw the shit on top of that, and we're moving on.
Wallpaper.
So
stick
exactly.
Done.
I just thought it was funny because we get a good look at it. I'm like, that is plain. I understand, but it's hilariously plain. Anyways, what is happening next? Where am I? I'm trying to find where I'm in the notes.
My next note is that Anakin is all for Ninja Turtles. Because he takes like this spear or stick from one of the Felucians and does all kinds of ninja weapon moves with it that just reminded me of the Ninja Turtles for some reason.
Yeah.
Because like his arm movements don't necessarily match the weapon of choice that he has. And then what do we got?
So we get like a full on like training montage. In the montage, go ahead.
I almost feel like 80% of the rest of this episode is a montage interspersed by 2 or 3
scenes.
occasional scenes.
Yeah.
So
I don't disagree. Mm-hmm. So some of the major things that are happening during this montage is Serapos. Is that Serapos, right? The Robo-looking guy. He's like cutting down a tree. He has like a saw that's in the top of his arm. Sort of like a reverse Baraka. Or no, Baraka's is on top of his arm, right?
Yeah.
From Mortal Kombat, yeah. For some reason, I like in my head for a quick second, I was thinking like Scorpions comes out the bottom.
His spear comes out his wrist.
His wrist,
like, yeah.
That's what I was thinking for a hot second. But yeah, no, Baraka's at the top of the arms.
Yep.
Or Deadpool via Wolverine X-Men Origins. Yeah.
Yep. Same deal. Baraka.
Same thing.
Like zone shut, all that jazz. Pale.
Yeah.
Yep.
So he's cutting down some sort of tree situation. The tree starts falling his direction. He catches it, and Ahsoka's like, "It's gonna crush you," and like knocks him out of the way or like he's holding the tree, but then Ahsoka pushes him from out underneath the tree.
It's too heavy.
Yeah. The head pops off, and this is when we get the reveal that he's actually a small alien in a big suit. And Ahsoka calls out the name Serapos, and this is the first named of the bounty hunters that we get.
Yes.
So then, during the montage, a scout is spotted by Sugi, and Sugi tells Embo to get up there and take care of the situation. He gets up there, shoots the scout's bike, leading the scout to run on foot. Embo catches up to him, and then quite violently, but it
snaps his fucking neck.
Snaps the fucking neck. The shot is well done from behind, where you see the arm movements, but the body of the scout is hidden by Embo's own body, and then you cut back to the front, and you just see the body drop.
It was at this point that I was surprised that this still had like a Y7 rating.
Yes, yeah. I guess you can show a neck snapping in a Y7. I mean, or heavily imply, because you don't see the neck snapping on screen per se.
You do,
but
a little bit later.
But there,
spoiler.
yeah. That was in my notes too. Yeah, a lot of things happen twice in this episode. So Obi-Wan points out that, with the scout not returning, they'll know pretty quickly that they saw the scout, therefore get prepared for the pirates to return. And
I got a couple of details I want to throw in here real quick. Ahsoka's response to finding out that Serapis is like this little thing, right, is that you don't have to look tough to be tough, because he's like embarrassed. It's like he got caught with his fucking dick hanging out and people were pointing and laughing at him or something. Obi-Wan calls the pirates brigands again, which is weird.
Brigands.
The Artabash from this pirate scout, when it comes up, it says finding range, and then it like switches to something else. And tell me if the following two words make sense to you. Ang ding. It's A-N-G space D-I-N-G. So I don't know if somebody just misspelled something or what, but it just says, like, it says finding range and then ang ding. So I don't know what that's all about. I didn't know if this was some reference that I wasn't catching.
I don't believe so. I'm trying to think, but not, especially not to Kurosawa that I can think of off the top of my head, and definitely not to Seven Samurai. It's been a few years since I've seen Seven Samurai myself, but no.
Embo has this wicked awesome like helmet shield thing.
Yes.
And does some super Mortal Kombat style fighting up until the point where he snaps a dude's neck, which I guess is also like Mortal Kombat.
I'm trying to remember, is this when the scout starts shooting at him and he dips his head down?
Dips his head down, yep.
Uses the hat, like the metal hat, as a shield. So
as
he's
like
just
a Captain America shield, and then he does like that jump spin fucking maneuver. Like corkscrew spinning through the air.
Yes.
To like get up close to the pirate.
Yep.
Yeah. My next note is that Obi-Wan predicts the future, because that's the comment that you had about, since the scout isn't going to report back, then they're going to figure out something's wrong and they're going to come after us. We cut over to Hondo and his UFO and crew. We get to see that pretty badass Hondo UFO thing again.
Yeah.
The guy that tells him what's going on, like, leans in like he's gonna whisper, but then just talks like directly at full volume into his cheek, which is just completely awkward. Hondo kind of gives a pep talk to his people and says, well, we can't take these villagers for granted. And then he says, as I always say, speak softly and drive a big tank. Which I thought was a weird reference.
It's a, do you know this is a quote. This is, referencing a quote.
Yeah, of Teddy
Roosevelt. Who says,
and carry a big stick.
Yep. It's a weird time to say it, for sure.
It's a weird reference to put in this thing that you're already referencing something else.
It's allowed. I mean, I think
it's allowed. I'm just saying
funny.
It's a little bit weird.
I
thought
it was funny
on this. Like,
you can... You just don't want to mix like the eras, I guess. Like, is it?
I don't know. It's distracting. That's
like
all
to
I'll
me.
say.
Well, yeah, it definitely stands out. Like there's definitely a better way to fit this reference in for sure. But yeah. I mean, they threw it in. It's there. It doesn't kill me, but it definitely stands out. So pretty much right after this, Hondo attacks the village, and we get like a montage of different action that's all happening simultaneously, sort of.
Yep. So we cut back to the village. They're putting a fence up, which like where did this fence come from? It's like an energy fence thing that they just like constructed. And if you're a farm, why don't you have a fucking fence up anyway? Like that just makes sense, you know?
Yeah. Is the fence for the animals, I guess? Like, is that like for
I don't
rodents
know,
or something?
It just kind of like comes out of nowhere, and I don't know. Anakin does make a comment like, all the farmers are in positions. Well, the ones that stuck around anyway. So some of these Felucians were like, fuck this, and bailed.
That makes sense.
Yep.
Makes perfect sense.
Obi-Wan tells him to turn the fence on. We see the pirates approaching on like this weird roller coaster run through some archways, like down towards the fence. There's these weird beasts of burden that we haven't seen before, even in the farming. And then we begin like our final montage up until the end of the episode. This takes 4 minutes, and I have 28 points written down of just like, this happens, this happens, this happens, this happens, because it really is just a montage,
just a series of shots
of things.
No, I just wrote like the big things. So
sure, go ahead.
One of the big things again is that Embo keeps fucking snapping some necks. He like
snap
jumps.
number 2.
Yeah, he jumps like on another bike behind a dude and just like snaps the neck and takes over the fucking thing. While he's driving around, there's a tank that's on some high ground overlooking the village and shoots at his thing. He gets injured right about there.
I have one little blip right before that.
Go ahead.
I said Embo pulls off a floating Kung Lao awesome fucking hat throwing maneuver.
Hat throw, yes, yeah. The hat throw is cool.
Bounces back to him like Captain America.
Yep.
Kung Lao.
Magic hat.
Yeah, Kung Lao is a character from Mortal Kombat, for those of you that don't know.
Second Mortal Kombat reference, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So, that happens. Seeing the tank, Anakin makes his way up the cliff, and there's a good lightsaber fight versus, what is the energy stick thingy?
Yeah, he doesn't make his way up the cliff. He fucking force jumps all the way up there and lands on the tank. And then he is fighting Hondo on the tank while Muck Muck, the Kowakian monkey lizard, drives the fucking tank and is shooting at shit.
Yes, yep. Just hitting things with his foot. Like, he looks at the little view window thingy and just, like, he's still, like, blasting lasers off.
He straight shoots down Rumi Paramidi.
Yeah, who at this point is still not named, never named.
Still not named, dead.
Yeah, but is dead, indeed. Obi-Wan is telling Sugi to, like, watch her flank while all this stuff is happening, too. Mm-hmm. And then Delani fucking spears a dude who's running up behind Sugi and Obi-Wan. Just impales a dude right in the chest.
Anakin tries to murder Muck Muck. Like, Muck Muck had, like, jumped out and was, like, out of the tank, and he's like also attacking
his
Anakin.
Leg or something.
Attacks him on the face, biting his leg, and Anakin straight throws him up in the air like you would self-pitch a baseball to yourself.
Yep. Goes for the swing.
Just gonna chop this Muck Muck in half.
Yep.
And is blocked by Hondo.
Yep. So then Anakin ends up kicking him off the tank somewhere, and he never kind of comes back at all. Like, he kind of kicks him like a football, essentially.
I'm thinking he gets back in the tank because we do get another. The tank does fire again.
Oh, okay. So do we?
I'm assuming
on this one.
I'm assuming that Anakin like kicked him out of the way, and then Muck Muck scrambled back to the tank because there is a a final blast that comes out of this thing.
Yeah, but
well, he shoots at Anakin, and
that's true. So he gets back in
off.
then. Well, because there is some time where after kicking Muck, Anakin knocks Hondo over the side of the cliff, and Hondo's kind of hanging on. The pirates get freaked out, and they're like, "Oh my god, our captain!" But instead of helping him, they fucking flee the scene. And then
they're probably, in my opinion, headed back to the ship, and they're like, "Dude, the big
like,
boss is down.
House.
Let's take the fucking ship, and then we're in charge.
Let's get out of here." So then Hondo's asking him for some help just to get off the cliff, and he's like pleading with him. So Anakin does help him off, and this is when the tank shoots at Anakin, knocking him off the cliff. Hondo has the high ground. But then
have the high ground.
Yep, he yells down to the village, and he yells, "This effort is no longer profitable." And UFO shows up.
Super dramatic fashion, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And you can see the UFO like rising behind him. And it takes off super fast, so I don't know how Hondo got on that ship.
Yeah, it zooms out of there. So that pretty much leads us to like our final scene, in which Cassis is talking to the Jedi and thanks him for helping, and that his people no longer need to be afraid, which is nice.
Yeah. Okay. So I need to pause on that for a minute.
Go ahead.
He says, "For the first time in my memory, my people don't have to be afraid. We will never forget you." He's also, earlier in this episode, referred to as the old man. We talked about how he's basically the leader of this village, right? / farm, Akira village, whatever you want to call it, right?
Yeah.
So, these pirates haven't been here for that long. What were they afraid of before? What has been keeping these people in constant fear for so long?
Yeah, that's a good point. Just the Rancors, I guess? I don't know.
I guess, but you never see them. Like, it would have been awesome.
They never come back, yeah.
It would have been super fucking awesome if they used the Rancors to fight these pirates, and like them like piloting the Rancors was what was able to like fend the pirates off, because then they would have had like more of a victory. When Cassis is thanking the Jedi, Anakin's like, "No, you don't owe us thanks. Your people did this." But we literally see one. I guess no, probably not. I was gonna say we literally see only one attack from a Felucian, but that is completely false, because
there's a few.
Yeah, you only see like one in the foreground, but there's a lot of fighting in the background. So I will retract that literally and put that one back in my pocket for a later day.
Yeah, and then the last thing that happens is that Sugi offers the Jedi a ride. It's there's some cute banter.
She totally makes a joke about her dead friend and gives some.
We're short on company or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Like,
I seem to find myself light on company. Still need a ride. She's totally giving Obi-Wan the let's go to my cabin, just the two of us.
Oh, I agree.
Eyes.
Yeah. She's speaking very sultrily for sure at this moment.
And he responds in an equally flirtatious manner, whatever. He said, if it wouldn't be an inconvenience. And she's like, "Oh, no, on the contrary, it would be my pleasure." Yep. And then they hold hands and start to undress as they walk into the ship.
Forced undress? Is that a thing you can do?
Probably.
Like, can you use the zipper or the force to undo a zipper? Like, is that how that works?
Probably. I don't know. The question...
This brings up... This is a conversation I want to get into, but, like... Is, like, force groping a thing, I guess, that? Like, if force choking's a thing, I don't...
Probably.
Yeah.
It's like forced erbation?
I don't know how I feel about this conversation, where this is going, but...
Yeah, I don't know.
These are interesting questions. But anyways...
I have two big questions now. One, you just brought up something about a zipper. Do zippers exist in the Star Wars universe? And two, where's Embo's hat? Because he was fucking kicking ass with that thing, and then we see him with his arm in a sling because he got shot, but he doesn't have his hat.
Yeah, he doesn't have his hat. It's probably just already back on the ship. It's all ready to go. It's with the rest of his stuff. But
Well,
no,
then
as soon as I...
Why walk back outside just to, like, walk back inside?
Just to say bye to all the people that he just helped, you know?
Okay.
See, look at the faces of the people he just saved. But yeah, no, as soon as I mentioned zippers, I did have that question even in my own head, if zippers appear anywhere in this universe.
They do not.
And yeah, because usually it's like some sort of like Velcro attachment sort of thing happening, right? Or it's just regular
Velcros
cloaks.
And clasps.
Clasp, yeah, clasp is yeah.
And potentially buttons, probably.
Yeah, but yeah, that's a good point. I don't know if they have zipper technology of all things.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Cue loud music?
Yeah, cue loud music. Yeah, okay. So they get out of there. This is all done. So yeah.
I'm gonna give you a quiz here.
Go for it.
All right, I'm gonna throw out some names of characters, and I'm gonna have you guess who they are voiced by.
Okay.
Muck Monkey.
I'm gonna say one of the regulars' voices.
It is one of the regulars. It's Matt Lanter, the voice of Anakin.
Oh, nice. Very nice.
Sugi and Rumi are both voiced by Anna Graves. There is a village child that I meant to bring up that I called Ahsoka Jr. because she is voiced by Ashley Eckstein, and I'm sure that Ashley Eckstein...
is this earlier in the...
It's
right after one of the meetings or something like that?
It's directly before the pirates show up.
Yeah.
Because...
Oh, she's the one that calls out pirates, right?
She does, but I'm sure that Ashley Eckstein has some depth of voice acting experience.
Yes.
But it's really awkward when it comes up in this episode because Ahsoka and Obi-Wan are talking, and Ahsoka says something, and then you hear Ahsoka's voice say, "Pirates, pirates, pirates," because it's practically identical. Yeah, it's
Ahsoka's voice, just in a like half octave higher, like if that.
Maybe.
Like but no, I agree. As soon as that voice came out, I was like, that's fucking Ashley Eckstein. Like, no question. Like, why that for that one? Why not get any of the other girls from the other recent episodes with the Twi'leks and give them this one fucking line?
Right.
So
next we have Hondo.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna let you give that one a guess. I will tell you that you recently saw a movie with this voice.
Oh, Hondo, actor. Yeah. This one I know because it's Pooh, Jim Cummings.
Yep. Winnie the Pooh.
Winnie the Pooh.
Cassis, Serapos, and somebody named Guarm, who I don't know who that is.
Who the fuck is Guarm?
I'm guessing he's a pirate. Maybe he's the one. Maybe he's the first one to have his neck snapped.
Yeah.
That is Greg Baldwin.
All right.
I don't know who that is, but that's okay. And Delaney and some pirate scout are Stephen Stanton, and the big one is Embo, voiced by the big man himself, Dave Filoni.
Very nice.
So that is all I got as far as credits go.
Yeah.
We talked about writer and director earlier, and we've covered all of my notes. So I think it's time for thumbs up, thumbs down. You want to go? You want to roll first on this one?
Yeah, I can start. I'll just jump into it. I will say, I will give this a thumbs up. I definitely have some issues with this episode from a storytelling perspective, but I think it moves along enough at a brisk pace, but that's also at the same time kind of my problem with it, because I just gave it a thumbs up and now I'm gonna pick it apart. But
as we do,
yeah. So, the Seven Samurai is a movie that's 3 3/4 hours long. It's a long fucking movie. All right.
Right.
And now we're doing a version of it in 22 minutes. So,
yep.
With that, it's the base of the story, I think, definitely gets covered. Now, my main issue with this episode that I'd wish, like, right now it's a mild thumbs up. It's a good, decent thumbs up. Like, it's not amazing. But I don't think this episode's bad by any means, right?
Right.
I think it's entertaining enough that I did enjoy my time with it. But early on, there are some exposition scenes that are far too long for such a simple story, right? And the fact that they spend like one meeting just spilling out all of this, and then there's like arguments between the bounty hunters and Obi-Wan, and then Ahsoka and Obi-Wan, and then Anakin brings back up again the idea of the villagers fighting, right? The efficiency isn't there, which is weird when you already kind of have like the guide map to what you want to do. The other thing just from a wishful standpoint is that I wish they would have stuck with the story structure of Seven Samurai a little bit closer. So Seven Samurai, from my memory of it, begins with the farmers who are in trouble. Then they go find the Seven Samurai, right?
Well, that is the way it happened in A Bug's Life. Now that I
yes.
know that those.
Now that you understand it, right?
Right.
So I am very curious if they had taken the risk to have like a very generic newsreel, like war is happening, and this planet Felucia is getting fucked up, and there's this planet or this village that's having an issue. Let's jump in here, and we don't start with our main characters. We start with like this little village who hire. Like I want to see the process of them finding the bounty hunters.
So what if they did a mirror to the, I won't say the original opening. Did you ever read the novelization of A New Hope?
No.
So if I remember correctly, it begins on Tatooine with Luke looking up through some viewfinders and like seeing the shit that's happening post atmosphere.
Yeah.
And then obviously it cuts back up to the ship and C-3PO and R2-D2. But they totally could have done that here with these Felucians on the planet and, you know, seeing the med station being attacked or destroyed or whatever.
Yeah.
But I guess in your version, we wouldn't need the med station, so we wouldn't need that. It would also,
that's what bothered
would ruin,
me.
like, the reveal. I think there was maybe they wanted, like, a reveal of the Felucians. I don't really know. They are these weird little dinosaur people with no tails.
Yeah.
It's
and, like,
awkward.
There's nothing about that reveal that seemed necessary to me. Like, the Mexican standoff that happens is kind of the only thing that in bringing this closer to the structure as set by Kurosawa's film that would be really lost. But that was my, if there's a major problem I had, it's definitely maybe the first quarter of this episode where the med station's super unnecessary. That argument that happens in the jungle goes on for a little too long before we get into the main story, about which direction to go, all that stuff, you know. That's kind of my problem with this episode. It's like it's oddly inefficient for something that's trying to jam a 3-hour and 45-minute movie into a 22-minute TV episode. Like, that was the only thing I found really interesting about this episode. But on the whole, like, once we get into the final action scenes and stuff like that, I think it runs at a good clip. Embo, I think, is really cool as a character. Just his style of fighting, the action scenes they frame around him. I think the action scenes were well done. The little in-jokes during the montages of the villagers having issues, I enjoyed that. So,
okay, I do not disagree with anything that you've said. This one, as you give it like a slight thumbs up, I give it like a slight thumbs down.
Yes.
In the, I don't know, like knowing, I was going to say knowing what comes next, but I don't even think I need that. Like I feel like we've had some momentum going from story to story and even like story arc to story arc. And then I feel like this was put in because this was maybe a good break between where we were and where we're going. And obviously this episode was a tribute to Akira Kurosawa, right? And I don't feel that it fits in the continuity necessarily. I feel like a lot of it is disagreement, dialogue, montage. Disagreement, dialogue, montage. And I do completely agree with you that once shit gets rolling and we get into the meat of it, which is the training of these people and then the fight at the end, things roll at a nice pace. The unfortunate thing is that you're at 12 minutes into a 25 minute episode when you get there, and then you have to do just like montage, single scene, montage, single scene, montage, single scene, done.
Yeah. Look, I don't disagree, and honestly, this one I did watch twice, and after both times I was really thinking this was thumbs down, and I don't disagree with you. The entire time I watched it, both times, I definitely saw this episode as a filler episode.
Yeah, like I like this episode. It was an enjoyable watch, but I think in the larger perspective of what we have going on, it just doesn't break my thumb above that 50% mark.
Yeah, and I'm still struggling with it myself. Like, I'm not gonna lie, because like I said,
I think calling it a filler episode is pretty correct.
Yeah, it's a filler episode, and the only reason I give it a thumbs up is I don't know. There are a few. There's enough things in this one that kind of, I think the Hondo is memorable as a character. I think that is a good start. I do find 3 of the 4 bounty hunters to be memorable characters.
I think that all 4 of them could have been really compelling and have more of an impact if, like you said, we start with the village. Somehow we get the cry out to the Jedi. It could even be in the newsreel, like, hey, this shit is happening, and these 3 Jedi have been called upon to help this village. Then they get to the village and they find these other 4 bounty hunters. We can build the bounty hunters up a little bit, and then we can move forward with the training and whatever else is going on. The Battle of the Pirates, the climax to it where Hondo does what he does, where he's like, I'll call off my guys, help me, Anakin, and then Anakin like pulls him up, and then he like shoves him, and then fucking Anakin gets shot at, doesn't die, and then he's like, oh shit, well, that didn't work, all right, no longer profitable, peace out, see you later. I really like that.
Because look, you know what, I think I will change mine, because that is
you can't do it, you can't change it.
You
already gave it.
It's eating at me. No, it's eating at me too damn much now. Like, it's Because I was trying to get, I was trying to get past that. Because, like, I knew I had these problems going into it, but, like, I think the reason I went thumbs up initially is, like, the ending redeemed it, right? Like,
it does. It's a good ending.
I am a believer that the ending can redeem it, but just the more I think about the story structure and how it got so fucked up, like,
I think,
and even as we're talking about
original,
even as we were talking about the episode, I was waiting to get to the end, and talking about the end, like, I felt better about it still, but just looking back, it's still gnawing at me enough that,
like, personally, if we were doing like an ABCDF grade, this would get an absolute C. Just like boom, middle. Like,
yeah,
don't want to go up, don't want to go down, but I know that I came up with this grading scale, so I have to, and it's just.
Yeah, see, it's this binary that we're in, right? Yeah, it's this
just
binary
low enough to tick it on the down for me.
Because, like, unlike the last couple episodes, you know, like, the one positive I saw was, like, Ahsoka in this one didn't bother me at all, you know? And I think I said,
no,
like,
she's useful. She's got some compelling arguments, I think. She's insightful in what she is asking. I mean, if anything, Obi-Wan is like the
weird,
what are you doing in this story character, other than the fact that we need 7 people.
Yeah, that was the other contrivance that, like, as soon as it got said, I was like, oh, Jesus Christ, like, that is too convenient. No, yeah, I agree. Or as I said, like, if the beginning of this got tightened up a lot, like, there's a great, clearly being based off of Seven Samurai, you know, like, there's a great way to tell the story. The other thought I had was this episode with some breathing room as a 2-parter, I think, would have benefited a lot. Clearly, because towards the end, as you said, we hit up some montages. But it is
they definitely had to rush through the second half of this to tell the rest of the story.
Like, the pacing does get off, but I feel like if they had given, especially the second half, room to breathe, but tightened up that first half, have it start from the village perspective, have like 3/4 of the episode dedicated to these bounty hunters coming in. Because I think the thing, here's what didn't sit right with me. We get told about the pirates first rather than seeing the threat first.
Okay.
Right?
For sure. I did not think of that, but
whereas
I'm on board with you.
In A Bug's Life, Hopper is fucking threatening every one of them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hopper fucking gets down there, picks up Dot by the fucking head, and it was like, yo, like, I can crush this girl's face, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's little things like that did bother me about the way this script was written. Like, why are you telling us that pirates are, like, there's so much random exposition that's happening that they could have just shown in a single scene that would have paid off better. And then, like I said in the last episode, it's surprising to me that the show doesn't depend on cliffhangers a little bit more, because I think leading up to, like, showing some of the training more in depth, and
because it was basically like hold the stick like this, and swing the stick like this, and a couple corrections and like foot posture. But, like, nothing that they did this training was completed in, like, 12 and a half minutes.
Yes.
And you see Ahsoka, like, handing out slingshots, which I don't think you ever see.
Like,
think you ever see used in combat. And I kind of wonder, like, where she got them from, which is different question. But, I don't know.
Okay. Anyways. Yeah,
I know the whole purpose of her, like, handing out the slingshots is for her to be in proximity of Serapis.
Yeah,
so that she can give him some words of advice, because he called her knee high, even though in fact he's actually knee high, and she needs to tell him that, like, hey, being tough isn't looking tough. It's actually just, being tough.
Being tough.
And you're tough with or without that suit, which comes to help him later and blah,
See,
blah.
it was like that. Those little things. I did enjoy all of that. That's what I really did find value in this episode. Yeah, there are problems.
Hey, it's okay.
There are problems.
Lorenzo,
it's still thumbs down now.
You're going thumbs down?
Yeah, it's thumbs down now.
All right.
It's all bothering me too much. Like I said, it really was just the end that like made me feel okay about this episode.
You are 11 up,
okay.
21 down.
Jesus Christ.
So far, you have given the show a 34.38%.
Jeez. How many... I've been hopping back and forth between ups and downs lately, though, haven't I? Or have I?
You are on a down streak of 3. Prior to that, you had an up streak of 3. Okay. Then you had 1 down, and then 5 up, and then down as far as I can see up the rest of the the spreadsheet.
Oh boy.
So I'm at 22 up, 10 down, 68.75%.
Okay.
We haven't talked about our on-screen death count lately, and
this one has quite the few.
We have zero clones and 0 droids in the episode. So
so we're only counting that, yeah.
Yeah. So there's that.
Yeah. There's a few pirates that go down for sure in this episode.
Yeah. But I only count the clankas and the droid bait. So
that's fine.
Currently the score that I have is Clone Troopers 705, Droid Army 3,109. So that's a pretty big deficit, and I'm not sure that they're going to be able to come back. And I guess they do have 92 episodes more to go.
Yeah. Damn.
So there's that.
All right.
What, do you got anything else to finish us out today, or?
No, that's pretty much my note. I think we've exhausted this one. Just, if you're gonna try and base a story off of another very famous story, just don't be like it. It's already so explicit. Don't shy away from just copying everything. Don't try and shoehorn into the rest of how the show works, right?
Yeah, we've got another copycat coming up next week.
Do we really? I didn't even look forward at all.
So we got a 2-parter coming up, and that is the Zillow Beast and the Zillow Beast Strikes Back. So,
oh boy,
we'll be able to talk about what that 2-part arc is aping, starting next week. So awesome. Until then, head over to Twitter and check out Twitter and Instagram. Check out Kevin's stuff. Not me, Kevin, but Kevin Warren, our illustrator, at They Call Me KW. Mm-hmm. Email Lindsay and have her put some jingles together for you. strangefantasymusic@gmail.com. You can check us out on social media, Twitter at Not the Nerds, Facebook at Not the Nerds Podcast, Gmail is notthenerdspodcast@gmail.com, and beyond. I think you can probably just Google Not the Nerds, all one word, and get some of those links and whatnot. So we got a website in the making. It's still in the making. So that when that debuts, I'll let you guys know. And other than that, I got nothing.
Yep,
Lorenzo,
that's everything. Yeah, I
think
we've
thanks
covered
for
this
hanging out for the last couple hours. Thanks for your guys' patience and getting to the actual content of this episode. It took a little bit longer at the beginning, covering some news and some other stuff. So,
ironic covering considering the episode we just covered.
Yeah, we had 2 RIPs at the beginning. So,
yeah. All right, thank you.
Yep. Go ahead.
Yep. No.
Yep.
Go ahead.
These aren't the nerds you're looking for.